Until the mother returned with a shocking truth. He had been raising his dead brother's son. The sun dipped low over the horizon, casting long red shadows across the dusty plains of Red Dust Station. It was a small settlement on the edge of the Martian frontier, where the air was thin, the nights were cold, and life moved slowly, measured by the hum of machinery and the occasional flash of a hovercraft passing overhead. The station wasn't much, just a handful of buildings made from salvage metal and solar panels, but it was home. Jace Calloway wiped a thin layer of dust from his boots as he walked past the robotic sheep grazing in the small enclosure outside his home. The sheep were a marvel of frontier technology. Their synthetic wool was soft enough to be spun into warm blankets, and their sensors could detect changes in the Martian soil that humans could not. Jace had spent years learning how to maintain them, tuning their circuits and replacing worn parts. It wasn't glamorous work, but it kept him busy and fed. And most importantly, it kept Eli safe. Eli was busy tinkering with a small drone in the corner of the yard, his fingers moving deftly over the controls. At 10 years old, he already had a way with machines that surprised even Jace. The boy could take apart a device, study its workings, and put it back together in ways that made it better than before. Watching him, Jace felt a swell of pride and a hint of worry. Machines were one thing, but the frontier was harsh, and he needed Eli to understand that not everything could be fixed with a wrench or a soldering iron. "Be careful with that, Eli," Jace called. "Remember, this drone isn't just a toy. It's worth more than a month of rations." Eli looked up, a grin spreading across his freckled face. "I know, Uncle Jace. I won't break it." Jace shook his head, half amused, half exasperated. "You always say that. And somehow, it's never true." Eli laughed, and the sound echoed across the dusty plains, light and free in a place that could feel lonely at times. For years, Jace had raised Eli as his own. He told himself it didn't matter that Eli wasn't technically his son. What mattered was that the boy had someone who cared for him, who taught him to survive, to think, to dream, even in a place as harsh as Mars. The evening air grew colder, and Jace gestured for Eli to come inside. "Time to finish your lessons before dinner. The night's coming, and I don't want you out here in the cold tinkering with circuits all alone." Inside, the home smelled of recycled air and the faint aroma of rehydrated food. It wasn't much, but it was comfortable. The walls were lined with shelves full of tools, spare parts, and little inventions Eli had made over the years. A self-watering plant pot, a solar-powered lantern, and even a tiny robotic dog that followed him around, wagging its metal tail. Jace poured 2 cups of rehydrated tea, handing one to Eli. "So," he said, "how's the programming going? Did you get that drone to follow the new path you designed?" Eli nodded eagerly. "It worked! I even made it avoid the rocks automatically. See?" He tapped a small screen that showed a map of the yard and the drone's route. It learns from the terrain now. It's almost like it's thinking for itself." "That's impressive," Jace said, genuinely impressed. "But remember, it's not alive. You have to be careful. Machines can't make decisions like humans do. They follow rules, nothing more." Eli's smile faltered slightly. "I know. But sometimes I wonder." He hesitated, then added softly, "Sometimes I think they almost understand me." Jace's chest tightened. He remembered the day Eli had arrived at his doorstep, a tiny bundle wrapped in a thin blanket, crying and alone. The boy's parents had been gone, or so Jace was told. At the time, he had promised himself that he would care for the child, raise him, and keep him safe. And he had kept that promise, even if it meant sacrificing a normal life for himself. "Machines don't understand," Jace said gently, "but people do. And people are what matter." Eli nodded, though he seemed lost in thought. Jace didn't push him. He knew the boy would share his thoughts when he was ready. Later that night, as the two sat on the porch watching the twin moons rise over the horizon, a soft hum broke the quiet. Jace squinted. A hovercraft was approaching, its lights cutting through the darkness like a needle. Few visitors came to Red Dust Station. The frontier was remote, and most people stayed where it was safer. The craft landed with a soft hiss of air. A woman stepped out, her suit gleaming faintly in the dim light. She carried herself with a quiet urgency, and her eyes scanned the small settlement as if looking for something or someone. Jace's instincts told him to be wary. Visitors weren't always friendly, especially ones who appeared unannounced in the dead of night. But something in the woman's gaze made him hesitate. There was a familiarity there, though he couldn't place it. The woman approached slowly. "Jace Calloway?" she asked, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "That's me," Jace replied cautiously. "Who are you?" "My name is Mara," she said. "I've come about Eli." Eli froze behind Jace, clutching the railing of the porch. He had never seen this woman before, yet she spoke his name with a strange certainty, as if she had been searching for him all his life. Jace stepped protectively in front of the boy. "What about him?" he asked. "Who are you, really?" Mara took a deep breath. "I'm his mother." The words hung in the air like a shockwave. Jace felt his stomach twist. "I don't understand." "His mother? You mean he couldn't finish the sentence?" Mara nodded slowly. "Yes, I've been searching for him for years. I had no way to raise him safely on the outer colonies. But I've found him now." Eli's eyes were wide. "Mom?" he whispered, unsure if he should trust this stranger. Jace felt a swirl of emotions: confusion, fear, and a strange, gnawing curiosity. He had raised Eli for 10 years, never telling him about his parents, never revealing the truth of the boy's origins. And now suddenly that truth had arrived on his doorstep. "Why now?" Jace asked finally. "Why come all this way to Red Dust Station?" Mara hesitated. "Because it's time he knew the truth, and because he's ready." Jace's heart raced. He didn't know what the truth was yet, but he sensed that, whatever it was, it would change everything. For the first time in years, he felt uncertain about Eli, about his own decisions, and about the life he had built. The night grew colder, and the wind carried the scent of Martian dust through the settlement. Eli stayed close to Jace, looking between him and Mara, unsure what to believe. Jace placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "We'll talk tomorrow," he said quietly. "Right now, let's get inside. We need to think." As they went indoors, the twin moons reflected on the metal roofs of Red Dust Station, casting another worldly glow over the settlement. Outside, Mara stood in the yard watching them, her expression unreadable. She seemed to carry secrets, ones that would soon unravel the life Jace had built with Eli. A life filled with love, care, and quiet routines on the frontier. For now, the night was silent again, but Jace knew that tomorrow would bring questions, revelations, and choices that could not be ignored. The frontier had always been a place of challenges, but this was something entirely new. And deep down, he feared that the truth Mara carried would change everything he thought he knew about Eli, about himself, and about family. The morning sun rose slowly over Red Dust Station, painting the dusty plains in soft gold and red hues. Jace Calloway stood at the edge of his yard, looking at the hovercraft that had brought Mara the night before. It remained parked quietly on the landing pad, its polished metal gleaming under the weak Martian light. For hours, neither Eli nor he had spoken much about her. The boy was quiet, unusual for him, and Jace's mind was a whirlwind of questions and unease. Eli appeared in the doorway, his hair messy from sleep, holding the small robotic dog he had built years ago. It had wagged its metal tail when Mara appeared the night before, but now it followed him obediently. "Uncle Jace," Ellie said, voice hesitant. "Why did she say she was my mom?" Was she telling the truth? Jace sighed, running a hand over his face. "I don't know, Eli. I don't know yet. All I know is she says she knows about you, and she came all the way here to see you." Eli frowned. "Does that mean she's going to take me away?" Jace knelt to look him in the eye. "I don't know what she wants, but we'll figure it out together. You're not going anywhere without knowing the whole story." Eli nodded slowly, but the unease in his eyes betrayed him. He turned to the robot dog, as if it could give him answers, and patted its head. The hum of machinery and the soft sounds of the frontier were interrupted by Mara's voice from the porch. "Good morning." Jace and Eli turned. Mara had removed her helmet, letting her auburn hair fall around her shoulders. Her eyes, the same striking green Jace had noticed the night before, held something deeper now, an almost pleading urgency. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said gently, "but I need to speak with both of you. There's much to explain." Jace studied her carefully. She wasn't threatening, that was clear. But the quiet certainty in her tone told him that whatever she was about to say would change everything. "All right," Jace said, keeping his voice calm. "Come in." Inside the small home, the air felt thicker, charged with anticipation. Mara sat at the table, while Eli perched on a chair gripping the edge. Jace leaned against the counter, watching both of them, trying to understand how to begin. Mara took a deep breath. "I know this is strange, coming out of nowhere. And I know that you've raised Eli for years. You've given him love, care, and guidance. But I need to tell you the truth. About him. About his past." Eli's eyes widened, and he leaned forward. What truth? Mara's lips pressed together, and she looked at Jace for permission, which he gave with a subtle nod. He is my son, she said. And he is also your nephew. Jace froze, his mind racing. He had raised Eli, cared for him, watched him grow. But this, his nephew? He hadn't expected this revelation. Eli tilted his head confused. Nephew? Mara nodded. Yes. Your brother. He passed away when Eli was just a baby. I couldn't raise him alone on the frontier. It was too dangerous. You took him in. You've been raising him, loving him, without knowing he is your brother's son. The words hung in the room, heavy and strange. Jace felt a mix of emotions, surprise, grief, pride, and something else he couldn't name. Memories of his brother, a cheerful and brave man who had died in a mining accident on one of Mars's moons, came rushing back. Jace had thought about him often, but the truth of Eli's connection made it painfully real. Eli stared at Mara, then at Jace. So, you're my mom? He asked softly.
I am, Mara.
Her voice was calm, but carried an undercurrent of sadness. I've been searching for you for a long time. I never stopped hoping I would find you. Jace crouched down to Eli's level. You see, Eli, there's more to your story than we ever knew. Your mom is here now, and, she wants to help. Eli's eyes were wide, and he didn't speak. Instead, he stared at his hands, then at the small robot dog at his feet. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the devices on the shelves. Mara continued softly. I didn't come here to take him away. I came here to share the truth. He deserves to know who he really is. Jace nodded slowly. He does. He paused, thinking. And he'll need time. This is a lot to process. I know I raised him, but he has the right to know his mother and his past. I'll step back and let you explain things, Mara. Mara smiled faintly. Thank you. That means more than you know. Eli finally spoke, his voice hesitant. I don't understand. Why didn't anyone tell me before? Because, Jace said carefully, we wanted to keep you safe. The frontier is harsh. The truth, we thought it might be too much when you were little. Eli's brow furrowed. Safe from what? Mara shook her head. Not from anyone. Just from knowledge you weren't ready to carry. You were a baby when your father, my husband, died. Your uncle promised to keep you safe. And he has. Jace placed a hand on Eli's shoulder, and I always will. But now, it's time for the truth. For the rest of the morning, Mara spoke gently, filling in pieces of Eli's past. She told him about his father's work on the Martian moons, his untimely accident, and how she had struggled to raise a child alone in the outer colonies. She explained why she had left him with Jace. And she spoke of love, the love that had never stopped, the bond that had carried across years and distance. Eli listened intently, absorbing every word. He asked questions, many of them simple, some surprisingly deep for a 10-year-old. Did Dad like machines too? He asked. Was he brave? Yes, Mara said. He loved machines and gadgets just like you. And he was brave, braver than anyone I've ever known. Jace smiled faintly. Some of that bravery must have rubbed off on you, Eli. Look at how you fix those robots. You're smart, careful, and curious, just like your father. Eli looked down at his hands, then back at Mara and Jace. I think I understand. Maybe. But it's strange. I've always felt like I was missing something. Mara reached out and took his small hand. You weren't missing love, Eli. You had that. But now you know a little more about where you come from. The afternoon passed slowly, filled with quiet conversation and shared memories. Jace showed Mara some of the inventions Eli had made over the years, and she marveled at his creativity. She smiled as she watched him explain the workings of the robotic dog and the drone. There was a pride in her eyes that mirrored Jace's own. As the sun began to set, painting the plains in shades of orange and pink, Mara stood up. I need to prepare for my return journey, she said softly. I wanted to give you the truth today. I'll stay in contact, and I'll answer any questions you have. But I wanted this moment to belong to you and Jace. Eli looked at her, unsure what to say. He felt a swirl of emotions. Confusion, curiosity, and even a little excitement. I want to know more, he said finally. You will, Mara assured him. All in good time. Jace stepped forward. Thank you, Mara, for telling him. For coming here? We'll talk more tomorrow. Tonight, let's just digest everything. She smiled at Eli one last time, a gentle, warm smile. Good night, Eli. Remember you are loved." And with that, she climbed into her hovercraft and lifted off, leaving a trail of faint light in the Martian dusk. Eli stood at the porch, watching the craft disappear into the horizon. He felt a strange emptiness, but also a sense of wonder. For the first time, he realized that the universe was bigger than Red Dust Station, bigger than the small frontier home he had known all his life. Jace placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay to feel confused, Eli, but you're not alone. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Eli nodded, feeling the warmth of the bond he had with Jace. He didn't yet fully understand what had happened today, but he knew one thing for certain: his life had changed forever. And somehow, despite the uncertainty, he felt ready to explore the new path ahead. Outside, the Martian winds whispered over the plains, carrying dust and secrets across the settlement. The frontier was quiet, but it was alive with possibility. And for Eli, Jace, and Mara, the journey of truth and discovery had only just begun. The next morning, Red Dust Station was quiet, save for the soft whir of robotic sheep grazing and the occasional hum of solar panels adjusting to catch the weak Martian sunlight. Jace Calloway sat at the small wooden table in his home, staring at the cup of tea he hadn't yet touched. His mind was restless. Mara's visit had stirred emotions he had buried for years. Memories of his brother, of his own grief, and now this sudden revelation about Eli. Eli entered the room carrying the small drone he had been working on. His eyes were bright but filled with questions. "Uncle Jace," he began hesitantly, "do you think Mom will come back soon?" Jace looked at him, trying to find the right words. I don't know for sure, Eli."
But she promised she'd stay in touch. And she meant it.
Eli placed the drone on the table and fiddled with its controls, a nervous habit he had when he was thinking. I like her," he admitted quietly. "But I don't know if I like her being my mom." Jace smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and sadness in his eyes. "It's okay to feel that way. You don't have to decide anything right now. It's a lot to process. And it's okay to love her and still feel that your home is here, with me." Ellie nodded, though his brow remained furrowed. I thought I knew everything about my life, but now it's like the ground is moving under me." Jace reached over and ruffled his hair gently. "Life on the frontier often feels that way. The ground is never really still. But you know what? That doesn't mean you can't find solid footing. You've got me. You've got your mother out there. And you've got yourself. That's enough to start." Eli smiled faintly and returned to the drone. But even as he worked, his mind wandered. He couldn't stop thinking about his mother and the father he had never met. Questions swirled inside him like a storm he couldn't control. Who was he really? What did it mean to be a son, a nephew, a boy raised far from the people who gave him life? The day passed slowly. Jace worked on repairing a small hovercart while Eli tinkered with his robotic dog. The air between them was quiet, but filled with an unspoken understanding. Jace knew that the conversation with Mara had shifted something deep inside both of them. Eli was more aware now, more conscious of the vastness of his world. And Jace, he felt a strange mix of fear and hope. By mid-afternoon, the silence was broken by the hum of an approaching hovercraft. Jace squinted at the horizon and felt his heart tighten. Mara had returned, her craft gliding smoothly down to the landing pad. This time, her presence carried a new energy, a purpose that went beyond simply revealing the past. Mara stepped out, removing her helmet. "Hello again," she said softly, her eyes bright with determination. "I hope to see you today, Eli." Eli stood frozen, unsure whether to approach. "Mom," he said quietly, the word tasting strange on his tongue. Mara smiled gently. "I want to share more with you, Eli. There's a story your father never got to finish, a story about him, about our family, and about the world beyond Red Dust Station." Jace watched, torn between wanting to step in and wanting to let Eli have this moment. He knew Eli needed to hear this from Mara herself. "Come with me," Mara said. "Not far. Just to the edge of the station. I want to show you something." Eli hesitated, then glanced at Jace. Jace nodded gently. "It's okay. I'll be right here." Together, Eli and Mara walked toward the station's boundary, the Martian wind brushing against their faces. Mara spoke softly as they walked, telling Eli about his father's work on the moons of Mars, the experiments, the discoveries, and the inventions he had dreamed of creating for the colonies. Eli listened, captivated. He wanted to build things for people? He asked, his eyes wide. "Yes," Mara replied. He wanted to make life better for everyone on the frontier, and he loved you, Eli. From the very first moment. Ellie paused, taking in the red dust stretching endlessly before him. I wish I could have met him. Mara knelt down to his level. I know. But even though you didn't meet him, he's a part of you, and the way you think, the way you create, it's his spirit in you. Eli's eyes filled with wonder. So, the things I make, maybe it's him helping me? Mara smiled. Exactly. He's a part of you, always. The conversation shifted to Jace. Mara spoke carefully, acknowledging the man's years of care, love, and guidance. You've been amazing for him, Jace. He wouldn't be who he is today without you. I'm grateful. Truly grateful. Jace felt a lump in his throat. I did what I thought was right. I wanted him to grow up safe and happy. That's all I ever wanted. Mara reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. And you succeeded. You gave him a home, a father figure, and a guide. That's more than most can do. Don't doubt yourself. The wind carried a gentle quiet over the station, as if the universe itself paused to acknowledge the moment. For Eli, the world seemed larger than he had imagined. He had always thought Red Dust Station was the center of everything. Now he realized it was just one small point in a universe filled with people, stories, and possibilities. Mara led him back to a small ridge near the edge of the station. From there, the red plain stretched endlessly, dotted with other settlements and distant mining hubs. She pointed to the horizon. See those lights? That's where your father worked. That's where his dreams began. And one day maybe yours will too. Ellie stared, feeling a mixture of awe and determination. I want to see it, all of it. I want to know him, even if he's not here. Mara's eyes softened. And you will, Eli. In your own way, through your creations, through your choices, and through the love you carry. Returning to the home, the three of them spent the evening, sharing stories and memories. Jace told Eli about the early days of Red Dust Station, about his brother's laughter, and the inventions they had tried together. Mara spoke of her husband's passion for discovery, the small joys he had found in everyday life, and the lessons he had hoped to pass on to his son. Eli sat between them, listening, absorbing, and asking questions. Each story seemed to connect the dots of his life, filling in gaps he had never known existed. He learned about courage, curiosity, kindness, and the quiet strength that came from caring for others. As night fell, a soft light glowed from the twin moons above. Eli lay in his small bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything he had learned. His world had shifted, and yet he felt a strange peace. He understood that life was bigger than the frontier home he had always known. It was filled with people, love, and connections that spanned time and space. Jay sat outside on the porch, looking up at the stars. He knew that Mara's visit had changed things. Eli would never see the world the same way again. But he also knew that this was a gift, a chance for Eli to grow, to learn, and to carry the legacy of a father he had never met. And somewhere deep in his heart, Jace felt hope. Hope that despite the unknowns, the challenges, and the questions that would come, their family, though unconventional, was stronger than ever. Outside, the Martian winds whispered across the red plains. Dust danced in the moonlight, carrying with it the stories of those who had come before, those who had come after, and the boy who was beginning to understand who he truly was. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more stories, and perhaps more revelations. But for now, the frontier was calm, and for the first time in a long time, Eli, Jace, and Mara felt a quiet certainty that they were exactly where they were meant to be. And deep down, all three of them knew that life on the frontier, though unpredictable, was full of possibilities, waiting to be discovered. The morning sun rose slowly over Red Dust Station, casting soft pink and gold light across the dusty plains. The air felt calm, almost gentle, a rare stillness in a place that was usually alive with the hum of machines, the rustle of robotic livestock, and the faint wind carrying red dust across the settlement. Eli sat on the porch with a small notebook on his lap. He had been drawing and writing for hours, trying to make sense of everything Mara had told him the day before. The more he thought about it, the more he realized how much his life had changed in just a few days. He had always known Jace as his guardian, his mentor, and his family. But now he understood there were other connections, threads of a story he had never known, woven through time and across planets. Eli, Jace called gently from inside the house. Mara's here. She wants to talk before she leaves again. Eli closed his notebook and ran a hand through his hair. I'm ready, he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. Mara had returned to Red Dust Station in the early morning, her hovercraft resting on the landing pad. She stepped out gracefully, her auburn hair glinting in the soft sunlight. Her eyes held a warmth and calm determination that made Eli feel safe, even as he still felt a flutter of nervousness in his chest. "Good morning, Eli," she said gently. "I wanted to come back today to answer any questions you might have. And to tell you everything. The rest of the truth." Eli stood, his small hands clenching at his sides. "Everything?" he asked cautiously. Mara nodded. "Yes, everything. You deserve to know, and you are ready." Jace stepped closer to Eli, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Remember, Eli, no matter what you learn, we're here. You're not alone." Eli took a deep breath and followed Mara toward the small clearing near the edge of the station. The red dust beneath their feet seemed to glow in the early sunlight, and for a moment it felt as though time itself had slowed. "Eli," Mara began, her voice soft but steady, "there is one part of your story that I haven't told you yet. Something your father wanted you to know, and something your uncle has tried to protect you from until you are ready." Eli's heart beat faster. "What is it?" Mara knelt down to his level and smiled gently. "Your father was not just an inventor. He was a dreamer, someone who believed that the frontier could be a better place for everyone. But he also believed in family. He wanted you to grow up knowing love, guidance, and the value of choices. He knew that you would need a strong protector. That's why he trusted Jace to raise you." Eli blinked, trying to absorb the words. "So, everything he wanted for me, Jace gave me?"
"Yes," Mara said softly.
"Every lesson, every moment of care, every small invention you created under Jace's guidance, he was helping you grow into the person he hoped you would become. He trusted your uncle with his most precious gift, you." Eli's chest swelled with a strange mixture of pride and gratitude. He looked at Jace, who met his gaze with steady eyes and a faint smile. The connection between them felt stronger now, not weaker, despite the revelation of his parentage. Mara continued. "Your father also left something for you, something he hoped you would discover when the time was right." She reached into a small pouch at her side and pulled out a thin, metallic box. "He wanted you to have this when you were ready to understand its meaning." Eli's eyes widened. "What is it?" Jace looked at Mara curiously. "Should we open it together?" Mara nodded. "Yes." Eli carefully lifted the lid. Inside was a small, intricately carved medallion and a folded note. Open the note first. The handwriting was familiar, yet strange, elegant, and precise. The words made his heart race. "To my son, Eli, you may not remember me, but I am always with you. Every choice you make, every invention, every step forward, you carry a piece of me. Be brave, be curious, and always know that you are loved by me and by those who protect you." Dad-Eye's eyes filled with tears, though he blinked them back quickly. He looked at Jace, then at Mara. I never knew he thought about me like this." Jace knelt beside him, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. "He did, Eli, every day. And I've tried to honor that trust." Mara smiled softly. "Your father wanted you to grow in love, not fear. And look at you now, smart, kind, and ready to take your own path." Eli held the medallion in his hand. It felt warm, as though it carried energy beyond the metal itself. I think I understand now. My life, it's not just about Red Dust Station. It's about everything we do, the people we care about, and the choices we make." Jace's eyes glimmered. "Exactly, Ellie. And you'll keep making choices that shape the world around you. And we'll be here, guiding you when you need it, supporting you always." Mara nodded. "I will always be here too. Even if I cannot stay on Red Dust Station, I will watch over you, answer your questions, and help you when I can." Eli smiled, a bright, hopeful smile that seemed to light the dusty plains. "I think I want to stay here, with Uncle Jace. This is my home. But I want to know more about you too, Mom. I want to learn about Dad, about the other places he worked, and about the life I never got to see." Mara's eyes softened, filled with pride and joy. "Then that is exactly what we will do. We will share stories, explore together, and build a connection that grows stronger every day." Jace stood, looking at them both. He felt a deep relief, a weight lifting from his shoulders. For years he had worried about raising Eli alone, about whether he had done enough. Now, seeing the bond between Eli and Mara, he realized that love, consistent, patient, and thoughtful, was enough. He had given Eli a foundation strong enough to face the universe. The three of them returned to the small home where they spent the day exploring old family records, looking at pictures of Eli's father, and examining small inventions he had left behind. They laughed, shared stories, and marveled at the creativity and passion that ran in their family. As the sun set, the Martian sky ablaze with shades of orange and purple, Eli sat on the porch, the medallion around his neck glinting in the fading light. Jace joined him, leaning back in the chair with a calm expression. Mara stood nearby, watching them both with quiet satisfaction. "You know," Jace said softly, "life on the frontier is never easy. But moments like this, they make it all worthwhile." Eli looked at him, a confident spark in his eyes. "I think I understand now. Home isn't just a place. It's the people who care about you, who guide you, and who love you. And I've got all of that." Mara stepped closer, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "Exactly, Eli. And from now on, we'll build our family together, no matter the distance, no matter the challenges. The frontier may be vast, but love and connection make it smaller, brighter, and full of possibilities." Jace nodded, feeling a deep peace he hadn't known in years. "We've got a lot ahead of us, Eli. Adventures, discoveries, and the chance to make the frontier a better place, just like your father dreamed. And you'll lead the way, little man." Eli grinned. "Then let's get started. I've got a lot to learn and a lot to build." Mara smiled, her eyes shining. "And we'll be here every step of the way." The wind blew gently across the station, carrying red dust and the quiet hum of the robotic livestock. Above, the twin moons reflected the fading sunlight, casting a soft glow over the plains. It was peaceful.
It was quiet, and it was full of promise.
For Eli, Jace, and Mara, the frontier was no longer just a place of survival. It was a place of connection, discovery, and new beginnings. A place where the past and the present could meet, where love could guide every choice, and where family, no matter how unusual, could grow strong and shine bright. And as the stars began to appear in the deep Martian sky, Eli felt a sense of certainty he had never known before, that the future was his to shape and that he was not alone. Not ever.